I've been talking to you guys for a long time about interpretation. You got different interpretations of different things, and I kind of view life as being like a cloud, and I view a lot of our feelings being like clouds. You know, different things are going to pop up at different times, different situations, but if we're prepared for situations, we can overcome them, right? So if we have an umbrella for when it rains out, we can still hit up our 10-minute walk. Somebody else's interpretation of it raining out might be to say, fuck, it's raining outside, looks cold out there, I'm not going out there today. Well, what about a little kid? What kind of interpretation would they have if they saw that giant puddle right there? A kid would think, shit, this is a great opportunity to play, I'm going to jump in that puddle. Meanwhile, somebody else might think, man, I'm going to get my socks wet. And I don't want to get my socks wet because then my feet are going to get cold. If my feet get cold, I'm going to get sick. And if I'm sick, I can't work, then I can't make money, then I can't pay my rent. And then they get themselves all worked up, and all sad and pissed off, and then they're like, I actually kind of hate my job too. And you start going down a really bad path. But many things in life are like this umbrella. You can safeguard yourself against all kinds of things. You can protect yourself against things by just simply being prepared and by just giving a shit. If you give a shit about yourself, you'll nourish yourself with good nutrients, with good foods. If you care about yourself and you care about your body and the way that you look, you'll prep your meals. You'll be prepared. What's meal prep? Preparation. People talk about contest prep when they're getting ready for a bodybuilding show. People talk about prepping for a powerlifting meet. They're preparing for what they're about to do. How are they preparing for what they're about to do in the case of bodybuilding or in the case of powerlifting? We're doing things each and every day that are a little bit harder than what we're used to. And we're gradually, through utilizing resistance, we are gradually increasing resistance over a period of time to the point where our body starts to get used to it, and we start to have some adaptation that occurs, and over time we get stronger from it. The human body can adapt to all kinds of things. You guys ever seen Wim Hof before? You ever seen that crazy bastard? Jumping in a lake or jumping in some frozen body of water and just breathing through it. And his interpretation of seeing that really freezing cold water was what led him to understanding the human body on the level that he does now, because many years ago, when his wife killed herself, he was left with like 3 or 4 children, and he had no idea what he was going to do or how he was going to raise those kids. But I think he was walking home from somewhere one day, he saw an ice cold pond, and it called to him, and he was drawn to it. And his interpretation of that ice cold pond was like, that's just the challenge that I need to get my head out of my ass, so I can be there for my family. Who the hell knows why he jumped in there? Sounds crazy, but it changed his life forever. And over a period of time, what he learned is that you can adapt to just about anything. The human body is really, really strong. It's really, really powerful. And if we just prepare it, and if we just figure out ways to get the body ready for something, there's absolutely no reason why we can't get better at anything and get better at everything. When we think about resistance training, there's a technique that's been utilized in resistance training for many, many years, and it's called periodization. And you prioritize certain things that you want to get better at, but those certain things you want to get better at, you simply are just changing a small aspect of it to increase the difficulty of it so your body can adapt to it over a long period of time. Once you start to adapt to it, then you can now adopt these new things, these new principles into your day-to-day, and you can become more tolerant of what's happening around you because you'll be more prepared for what's going on. When somebody's doing a prep for a bodybuilding show, they are continually, over a period of time, decreasing the amount of food that they're consuming, which gets to be very, very difficult. In strength training for a bodybuilding show, there might be periods of time where you need to go a little heavier in order to get the muscle prepared to be able to handle more stress in some different ways. And as you get the muscle to be stronger, you'll now have more access to be able to challenge the muscles in some ways that you weren't able to do before, because you'll be able to recruit more motor units, more muscle fibers, and it will allow you to grow faster. But the muscles aren't going to respond to any of that if they're not prepared to do it through lifting heavy. You can also get yourself in better shape and have better cardiovascular, which could help you in bodybuilding or powerlifting. But again, it all comes back to being prepared. If you're prepared for something, you're going to be able to adapt to it. If you can adapt to it, you're going to be able to adopt it. If you can adopt it, you can probably do it almost every single day. And you can start to have it become part of your habit system. Once it becomes part of your habit system, it can be ingrained into something called your character. And it can become part of who you are. Somebody's like, oh yeah, I know that guy, he's super jacked. Right? Well, why are you the guy that's super jacked? Because you prepped yourself that way. You prepared yourself to be that way. You got yourself used to being that way. When it comes to powerlifting and bodybuilding, through some cardiovascular routine, through some stamina type training, through some high rep training, you can also, that also gives you more access to more things that you can do, because if you can simply breathe a lot better during your training sessions, you'll be able to recover a lot easier from those training sessions. Every single time you exert yourself really hard in an exercise, you'll recover, your heart rate will come down to a more manageable, more reasonable level, and you'll be able to go again. So you'll be able to do more work in less time. When you can do more work in less time, that's density training. That density training could help make you stronger, could help make you more fit, could help make you leaner, could help with hypertrophy, can help with just simply flat out strengthening the muscles. Because you can handle 3 sets of 10 with 315 in a bench press in the course of 10 minutes, whereas somebody else's work capacity, they might only be able to handle 225 for sets of 10 in the course of a half an hour. So obviously you are more fit, you are stronger, and as a result, you can imagine how those two different types of people would look. So I'm a big believer that you can look at working out and you can look at a lot of these things as being horrible or being really, really hard, or you can look at these things with a different interpretation and think about the results that you want to get. And you say, if I'm really prepped for that, I'll end up looking great. If I'm really prepared for that bodybuilding show, I'm going to end up looking the way that I want. I'm going to end up looking great on stage. Rather than thinking, oh shit, that bodybuilding prep's going to be super tough. Anybody can have that thought process, right? Anyone can have that interpretation of it. And think about how hard it's going to be. Oh man, when I do a bodybuilding prep, the whole family's got to get out of my way because I'm a real asshole for 3 months. I've heard people say stuff like that all the time. And when I did my bodybuilding show, I don't think nobody noticed much of anything. There wasn't a lot of changes with me from a mental perspective. The only thing that may have changed a bit was my habits. And because my habits changed, it was kind of annoying to my family because I had to eat differently than them. I couldn't enjoy like a glass of wine here or there with the wifey, that kind of stuff. So that interrupted some things. But my interpretation of it was that this is something that I agreed to do. In addition, my wife agreed to be part of it. It's something we both took on. It's something we took on as a family. And as we were going through it and as we were doing it, I kept thinking about the end result. I kept thinking about, hey, remember why you're doing this? What's the reason why we're doing this? So it is getting difficult. It's getting more difficult as the contest gets closer, but it's in order to prepare me for game day. And on game day, if I just play my cards right, I'm going to feel amazing. I'm going to look amazing. And I wanted to go as hard as I could with that. And actually, I got a great compliment from a longtime friend, a longtime bodybuilder, Alberto Nunez, who gets shredded. He gets completely shredded. But Alberto Nunez, he put a message up on Instagram after I did my bodybuilding show, and he said, Mark Bell goes over the middle harder than Jerry Rice. And man, did I love that compliment, because Jerry Rice played 20 years in the NFL, and I could not admire how courageous Jerry Rice was during his career and how much he put into being, one of the greatest football players of all time. So I thought that was awesome. And again, I just hung in there long enough to stay focused on the end result. What's that end result going to be? I want to always make sure that I'm prepared for stuff. Because just think about it, like, what are the things, you guys remember being in school, right? When you were prepared for a test, what was your outlook on that test? When you were learning about, let's just say, World War I, and you liked history, and you liked learning about these things, and you knew a lot of what was going to be on that test, what was your mindset then, right? Or how did you feel about that? When somebody asks you a question, and it's about cooking, and you absolutely love cooking, what's your interpretation of that? How does that make you feel? Well, what about when somebody asks you about foreign policy or politics? If somebody asks you something that, real estate, insurance, somebody asks you about the stock market, and you don't know shit about it. Well, it makes you kind of like feel bad about it, or be almost a little bit negative. I mean, sometimes if it's something we want to learn about, a lot of times we're like, hey, I actually don't know much about that. If you know more about that, I'd love to learn more. But most of the time, if it's that test that we didn't know shit about, you don't have a very good feeling. You're like, oh, you're like, I'm unprepared. And it causes a lot of stress. But why do we do that? Well, in school, it's pretty obvious. It's just because we weren't interested in it. But now that we're out of school, why would we be unprepared for stuff that we know that we enjoy? Why wouldn't we just simply buy a motherfucking umbrella because we know that we love to go on 10-minute walks when it could be pouring out, and all I have to do is go like that over my head and I solve the problem? Why would I not be prepared with an umbrella? Why would you not be prepared? What's your umbrella? What's the thing that's going to protect you to allow you to do the things that you enjoy? And can you find something that's as simple as this umbrella? I think this umbrella represents all the shit I just talked about in this whole podcast / 10-minute walkcast / YouTube video. To me, this represents having your meals prepped. To me, this represents doing your homework. When it's time to deadlift 315, my spine doesn't fall apart and I don't feel like I'm going to die, because I'm prepared to deadlift 315 because I've been lifting weights for a really long time. I know how to do it. I'm prepped for it. I mean, why do I still deadlift? Why do I still squat? It's because of this. It's to make my day easier and more convenient and more efficient. I oftentimes will overdo it. I oftentimes will lift myself till I'm blue in the face, and then it's hard to move for 2 or 3 days. But for the most part, I'm lifting to enhance my life, to make myself feel better, and not only to prepare my body, which sometimes my body is pretty sore or beat up, but to prepare my mind. People ask this question all the time. How do you do so many things at once, at one time? Right now, I'm making 3 products with Rogue Fitness. Right now, I'm about to launch Within You, which is my new supplement line. We have at least 4 products going. We're about to release the Steak Shake. On top of that, I still am lifting all the time. On top of that, I'm podcasting all the time. I podcasted so much today that I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. I podcasted. I did a Saturday school. I was in a meeting. Now I'm shooting this video. Every day there's kind of more and more added to the plate. How do you do more? You do more by becoming more. The more that you do, the more that you can handle. The more that you can handle, the more that you will become. You will become more than you were yesterday simply by doing more. And remember what I've said before about motivation. I love motivation. I love getting fired up. I love listening to David Goggins. I love listening to different people on YouTube to get myself fired up. I love all those things, and those things can be effective and they're great, but they're fleeting. So you would need dosages of that every day in order to have it really do anything. And sometimes motivation is so fleeting that by the time a video is over, the actionable thing that you were going to do, you don't even do, because you're like, it's still too much to do it. I don't care how fired up the guy got me. I still need to make a decision to go do something else because I still don't feel like working out necessarily. So we end up in these predicaments every single day where we're trying to get motivated. But remember what I said. First of all, I don't believe necessarily in trying. I believe in doing. That's where the motivation is going to come from. The motivation is going to come from doing. You guys know what I'm talking about. Motivation starts with movement. Get yourself moving. Get yourself in motion. Once you're in motion, the motivation will come. It will start after you get started and not before you get started. So if you don't feel motivated, it's because you haven't started anything yet. Am I making sense? We're on page 43, everybody? Get yourself moving and you'll be surprised at how motivated you are, and other people around you will be surprised with how motivated and fired up you are all the time. Keep it simple. Have things that allow you to do things in a convenient fashion, that allow you to do things that you want to do. Have your life set up in a way, your habits that you want to develop are simple and easy to get a hold of. Your healthy foods are easy to get a hold of. Your umbrella is next to your desk. For on days when it rains. It never actually rains here in California, so you don't really even need this, but in other states you probably do. You want all of the things that you find in your day-to-day that are easy. Think about how you can make them, not easy, all the things that you want to do in a day, find out ways to make them easier. Find out ways to make them more convenient. All the that you don't want to participate in anymore, whether it's smoking cigarettes, drinking alcohol, eating poorly, anything that you don't want to participate in it anymore, anything that you're really trying to change, make the barrier of entry into that super high and make it super annoying to even do it. I've heard of people, there's all kinds of different ways you can do this with yourself, but I've heard of people taking like their cookies and taking some of their favorite treats, and rather than just not buying them ever again and pretending that you're never going to eat them ever again, because we know that's not going to happen, what some people will do is they'll put them in a jar and they'll put them up in a shelf that requires them to get up on a step ladder to get them down from the shelf, to get them out of the cookie jar, and then you take out one or two of them. You put the lid back on right away, put them back where you found them, and then go sit down and watch your favorite show. That is a way to where you might be sitting down and you might go, Use laziness to your advantage. You might be so lazy, like if you think you're lazy, if you're like, I'm too lazy to go on a diet, well then you should be technically way too lazy to get up off the couch and to go climb up and grab those cookies off the top row up there, right? So you can utilize that laziness to your advantage in some cases. But think to yourself, what are the things I can do each and every day that I want to do that are going to help me get closer to my goals, and how do I lower all the barriers of entry into all those things? Eating healthy, have some fruit out rather than having some M&Ms out. At your work, maybe you have some cashews and some almonds, and maybe you carry some fruit around with you. Maybe you have some cheese in the fridge at work. Maybe you bring some Icon meals with you to work. Hint, hint. Maybe you bring some prep meals. Maybe you prep your own food. Maybe you don't like doing any of that stuff. Maybe you are, again, maybe you're lazy. But stop off somewhere and get a rotisserie chicken. A rotisserie chicken is like $5 or $6, I think, from like Costco. I mean, there's so many options for you guys to take this umbrella effect and put it into other aspects of your life. I want you to think about it, and in the comments below, I want you to share with me some tricks, some tips, some ways that you guys have cheated the system, to instill new habits into yourself that are allowing you to do the things that you love to do in an easy, comfortable fashion. Strength is never weakness, weakness is never strength. Catch you guys later.